thank you, Cognisoft, for our refreshments. We are very well aware that it's warm, okay? So during the breaks, air conditioning units will be running in this room just to cool it down. Slightly challenging to have them on full capacity because the noise, you won't then be able to hear our wonderful speakers. So just to be aware, it is warm. Try having a polo on. The jacket will be removed shortly. Also, for colleagues who are, scribbling notes down to take back to their organisations, stop it. There's a QR code on the back of this wonderful brochure where additional resources from all of our speakers will be added to that. Today is being filmed, so it will be sent to you all next week, and I can go home and show my mum that what I do is important. But yeah, don't start writing notes down because you will get all the information sent to you. So welcome back. We are about to join session 2. So I'd like to introduce the session, which is building trust, igniting motivation and encouraging hope, supporting those participants with complex needs. Our main speaker is Roxy Anning, and joined are Tim Scragg and Helen Lee. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Is it still morning? Yes, it is. So, actually, before I get started with the objectives, maybe Helen will mention something that we will be doing later on, something to be aware of.
Definitely. So I just took a picture of you all then because, like Dan, I want to prove my daughter, I work from home quite often. So I think she thinks I don't really work. I just send her to school. So I thought I'd take a picture so I can go home and prove that I do stuff during the day. So thank you for that. Many of you, if you have phones with you, we're going to do some interactive, a little bit of interaction later. So if you do have your phone to hand, we're going to be using an app called WooClap. So it might be worth you just going to the site, www.wooclap, which is spelled wooclap.com. You don't need to do anything else with it just yet. I'll give you some more instructions later, but if you could do that, that would be great. And then I just wanted to, before we get started with Roxy, talk a little bit about the fact that we're looking at complex needs in this session. So, and we're looking about how we create that level of motivation and encourage hope for our participants. So I wanted just to start by thinking, well, what do we mean by complex needs? And the challenge for you all as practitioners is that that can look very different for every single person that you work with. But there are common themes, and those themes include higher levels of ambivalence towards returning to work and higher levels of support needs. This session's not going to focus on individual specific barriers, but we are going to look at techniques that you can use to help us look at reducing ambivalence and giving people the appropriate levels of support that they need. We will, however, be looking at some specific barriers in a later session today called Let's Talk About Stigma that we'll be taking part in after lunch. So that's me for now. I'm going to hand you over to Roxy.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to crack on because we've got quite a lot to cover. There we go. Hang on a minute. There we go. So I want to very briefly touch upon what we are going to be doing in the session today. And hopefully by the end of the session, I don't know where to look. There we go. We are going to learn something about motivational interviewing. If you don't know what it is, you will find out. But I do know that there are some people in the room who have explored motivational interviewing before. Can you hear me okay? Because I get some, yeah? Okay. We are going to be looking at ambivalence. Helen mentioned quite a few times ambivalence, and you might be wondering, well, I don't know what that is, so we will find out. And we are going to look at the fixing reflex, one of the things that we do without even thinking about. We are also going to be looking at language, because language is actually really important because it gives us a lot of information from our clients, where our clients might be, whether they are resistant to change, whether they are ready for change. So we are going to be exploring the language. And hopefully, you will also appreciate the power of reflection. So this is the plan for today. And I want to start, and also, very, very important part, the one that I'm slightly dreading, we are going to have a live demonstration with Tim, and it's unscripted, so it can go well, or it can go not so well. We'll find out. Okay, so this is the plan for today, and I want to start by telling you a story about ambivalence. And to put a little bit of context, I want to tell you actually a story about little Roxy. This is me, looks slightly different, but still have that cheeky smile. So little Roxy was born in a very small town in south of Poland. And the town was surrounded by big, tall mountains, and she would spend her day playing with her friends in the field and climbing trees. And she was quite an adventurous little girl. And she had this dream of going to the big world and exploring, traveling and learning. And she felt a little bit trapped in the place she grew up because she didn't see many opportunities there. So she grew up a little, and one day she came back from school and announced to her family that she's going to move to the big world and move to another country. And she didn't expect the reaction that she got because she thought she would be encouraged, but instead her family started questioning her and saying things like, yeah, but why do you want to go? You've got your family, you've got your friends, you've got your school, you've got your safety net. But there was another part of her that was thinking, well, but I want to see the world and I want to learn and I want to explore. But the family planted the seed of doubt in her head, and then she really started feeling ambivalent. She felt torn and confused and stuck, and she didn't know which way to go. So part of her wanted to explore the world and learn. The other part of her was really scared, thinking, what if I won't make it? Or what if I miss my family and friends? Anyway, she sat down with that ambivalence for a while, and she made a decision to go. So she arrived in the big world, and suddenly the big mountains were replaced by very tall buildings, and the woods and very quiet streets were replaced by a lot of people and a lot of noise. And she felt ambivalent again, and part of her wanted to get on that bus and go back because it was too scary, but the other part of her was very excited about what could happen. Anyway, 20 years later, the same Roxy woke up this morning in a hotel room feeling very ambivalent about the day because she had a big day ahead of her, and she felt a lot of pressure. She wanted to put her covers over her head and stay in bed, but instead she also saw the other part, that she could maybe inspire someone and pass on her passion. So I dragged myself out of bed, and I am still feeling a little bit ambivalent, looking at you, looking at me, and part of me wants to run out of the room, and the other part is actually really excited. So I wanted to share this story with you because ambivalence is something that we work a lot with our participants and clients. People, when they are ambivalent, they are torn, they are stuck, they have two opposing views kind of pulling them from one direction to the other. And there is a really lovely quote I wanted to share with you. And this is a quote from people who created motivational interviewing. People often get stuck, not because they fail to appreciate the downside of the situation, but because they feel at least two ways about it. So ambivalence is normal. Ambivalence is natural. It's something that we wake up with on a daily basis, maybe not on a daily basis, but probably hopefully you can see yourself sometimes being ambivalent and wanting to make a change, but there is a part of you that doesn't want to make that change. So I mentioned earlier about language, and our language gives us clues where we might be ambivalent. So I want to explore a little bit of that. So I mentioned motivational interviewing, and I will tell you a little bit more about it in a moment, but I want to explore the language first. So in motivational interviewing, we have two types of language that we pay attention to. One of them is called change talk. And this is language that we hear that indicates that the person wants to change, that the person wants to move towards change. But on the flip side, we have what we call sustain talk. statements and words and things that people say that suggest that they are not ready for change or they don't want to change, and it might be that resistance to change too. There we go. So in the middle, we have ambivalence. I want to do something, but I don't want to do something. So let's have a look at some examples of how this plays out. So if we follow my example of my story that I've just told you, I gave you some change talk. I want to explore new cultures. I want to learn new language. But sorry, my slides are going a little bit berserk. But on the other side, we have, I'm worried that things will go wrong, that I will miss my family, but I want to have a challenge. So I was there kind of in the middle, being torn. What do I go? What do I go? Where do I, what's my next step? And I was lucky to pull on my courage and make a decision to go. But sometimes your clients will not have the courage, or they might have other barriers that will stop them from making a decision to make a positive change. So let's have a look at some examples of what your clients might say and what you hear your clients say that suggests ambivalence. So, sorry, my clicker is a little, oh, okay. I want to go back to work because it will help my confidence and I will meet new people. That suggests movement towards change, but I don't want to lose my benefits. That suggests movement towards not changing. Or I want to get a job, but I don't know where to start. It all feels very overwhelming. So I hope you can see, that confusion and people being stuck and not moving forward. Now, the purpose and the aim of motivational interviewing is to help people resolve their ambivalence so they can see more benefits of change and they will move closer towards change. But also, what we want to do, we want to increase change talk, that language towards change, because if we actually increase change talk and people will hear themselves talking about change, it's more likely that they will make a positive change. And what we want to do, we want to soften sustain talk, language against change. We want to magnify the language towards change and soften language against change. And this is what we are going to be aiming to demonstrate later on. So what is actually motivational interviewing? Some of you, I know that there are a few people who are familiar with it. There is actually a fresh, off-the-press book that came out, the 4th edition, that was delivered to my door a couple of days ago. It's very new, and I want to share with you the newest definition that came out from this book, which explains quite nicely what it is. But actually, before I share, let me share that. So, no, back, what? Oh my goodness. Do you have control over my slides? Oh, this is why I should use my own clicker. Okay, so there we go. Back to our motivational interviewing definition. Motivational interviewing, it's a particular way of talking with people about change and growth to strengthen their own commitment, motivation and commitment. So it's not us telling people, oh, you need to change because it's going to be good for you. There is part of that, of course, but we want to help clients to see for themselves their own benefits and reasons for change, because that's when change will be more sustainable and it's more likely to happen. I want to share with you one other definition, which is actually my favorite definition. And I share this quite a lot. Am I with someone is like entering their home. One should enter with respect, interest and kindness, affirm what is good, and refrain from providing unsolicited advice about how to arrange the furniture. I really love this quote because it really sums up what MI is. And I probably will go back to this quote a little bit later, but I hope you can resonate with that. So, what we would like to do is to get you guys involved. And this is the time where we will, in a moment, ask you to woo clap. But this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to think of a time when you wanted to make a change. And it doesn't matter how big or small that change was. Maybe you wanted to change a job. Maybe you wanted to give up smoking. Maybe you wanted to start a diet. Or maybe it was something bigger or smaller. And you told someone about the change that you wanted to make. Maybe your partner, friend, colleague. You told someone about it. You didn't ask for their advice, but they gave you advice and suggestions about what they think that you should do, okay? And my question to you is, what was your immediate response and how did it feel? What was your immediate response when you'd received that advice? And this is what we want you to think about. So, can we set up the wheel clap? So the question we are asking is this.
So if you
sorry.
So if you go to wooclap.com, you should be asked at the top of the slide, at the top of the page, you'll be asked to enter a code. If you enter Basecamp 1, or you can use the QR code, and it will, once you've entered that, it will come up with the answers. Now, you can submit more than one answer. So I know we've said what's your immediate response. You may have more than one feeling.
Yeah.
And you can also like other people. So if someone said your word before you and you want to take a shortcut, you can press the little heart next to it and you can share that.
I'm going
You can see lots of people thinking about things at the next. So I think what we're going to see in a moment, we're going to be swapped over to the WooClap.
Is the question on the WooClap?
It is, it's there.
Okay,
here you
already.
go. So we can see lots of things going on here.
Wow, this is amazing.
Isn't it amazing? So we're seeing lots of patterns coming through: defensive, annoyed, frustrated, rude.
Wow.
There's so much going on, it's hard to keep up, isn't it? Indifferent, bored. Thanks, but no thanks, I've seen in there.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Wow. As we can see, there are not many positive feelings there.
Yeah, I was looking around there for someone to have gone, oh, thank you so much. That was so
There are
helpful.
some, there is somebody says positive, but majority of those, I don't know how long this is going to
We
go
might
for.
have to stop them, might we, Roxy? It looks like we could be here all day with this. We're having fun venting our frustration at unsolicited advice.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, it's still going. Okay.
Excellent. So,
Okay.
yeah, we can stop
we-
that now. Thank
yeah?
you, everyone.
Are we done?
We'll have to get everyone
Oh,
to step away from the
can-
WooClap now.
can
We'll
we-
have more
can we-
chance later.
Excuse me, can we go back to the previous slide with the words that we finished on, please? Is that okay? Thank you. So, without reading all the words, you can see that there is a theme here. Annoyed, defensive, indifferent, frustration, rude. But the annoyed, defensive, and indifferent seems to be the theme. Now, I want to go back to that quote about walking into somebody else's home that kind of, I used to kind of really make the point. If somebody walked into your home and said to you, oh, you know what, you need to move your sofa over there and you need to strip your carpets off and paint your walls, put some pictures up and put some plants on, you probably would feel exactly that. But if somebody said, you know what, I'm thinking about making some changes, what do you think I could do to improve my home? And somebody said, well, how about maybe put some pictures up and paint the walls a different color or strip the carpets off, etc. I hope you would agree that we would probably be less defensive because we asked for that advice and we want to hear what other people are saying. And this is what we are exploring in motivational interviewing. It's how can we give advice without creating defensiveness? But going back to that advice, there is something that we call in motivational interviewing, I don't know if my slides are now working again. Thank you. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Is that you doing this or is it me? Is that you? Okay. Because I actually don't know what's going on with this clicker. Okay, so link to results, there we go. we have this thing that we call the fixing reflex. And the fixing reflex is our desire to fix, to solve problems, to give solutions, to give advice, to give ideas. But the problem with the fixing reflex is it causes defensiveness and resistance and pushback, all the things that we have seen. But it's a bit tricky, right? The fixing reflex, by the way, it comes from a good place because we want to help. We want to make it easy for someone. We want to do things quickly. So we have very good intention, but we already can see that there is quite a lot of resistance that it can create. So when you hear yourself saying things like, have you thought about this? Or do that? Or how about you try X, Y, and Z? That is our fixing reflex coming out. And we have to be very careful and mindful about how we are giving advice because we don't want to create that resistance. So what can we do to diminish that and to hold back? I use this analogy of some of you might remember having maybe one of those radios where you had to move the dials to get the signal, and we had to find the right frequency to get the music playing. And it's exactly like that with our clients. We need to find the frequency. We need to align with them. We need to tune in into what they are trying to say to us and really carefully listen. We want to be curious. We want to ask questions. We want to investigate. This is what MI does. You know, there's that element of curiosity, asking questions, wanting to find out what's going on. Also, we want to reflect what we hear. So if we are talking with our clients, we can reflect what we hear, but we have a choice of what we reflect and how we reflect. Because if we, I can't remember whether, there we go, and I like using the analogy of the magnifying glass. Whatever we hover the magnifying glass over will magnify, will get bigger. And if we focus on problems and obstacles, that will magnify. But if we focus on solutions and finding out ideas and ways of overcoming those problems, that's when we will get more of that. So basically, if we focus on sustained talk, we will get more of that. If we focus on eliciting change talk and magnifying change talk, we will get more change talk. Does that make sense, guys? Can you kind of nod your heads to... Okay, great. So, I'm just trying to think whether there was something else I wanted to say. Okay, so I will give you an example here. Your client might say something like, I want to work, change talk, followed by, but I'm old and I don't have recent experience, nobody will employ me at my age. I hope you will agree that this is one of the barriers that you might hear from your clients, right? Now, I think the immediate response is, you know, but you have transferable skills and you can do a lot and, you know, there are employers out there who are looking for people like you, etc. And it's great, but that's not what the person is saying. The person is saying, I'm worried, I'm ambivalent, I have reason why I don't want to go back, and we need to empathize with it. But also, once we empathize, we also have a choice of what we are going to focus on. So if we say, you are worried because you are worried that you are not going to find somebody who will employ you, well, where is that going to lead? The client will talk about worries and barriers and not having opportunities. But if we flip it and if we focus on the positive and say, so you want to find an employer who will appreciate your age and experience, or you want to work, you just have to find the right person to employ you, we are moving the person away from sustained talk to change talk, because it's more likely that they are going to talk, change talk. And when, as I said earlier, when people hear themselves making their own mind up about why they want to change, the reasons for change, what would be good for them if they made that change, they are more likely to make a positive change and they will be more motivated to do that. So I think we are coming up to the to the slightly intimidating part. So this is what our aim from our demonstration is going to be. My aim for this conversation, whatever that conversation will be about, is I want to stay curious a little bit longer. I want to ask questions. I want to investigate. I want the client to potentially make up their own mind about why they want to do something or why they don't want to do something. Also, my aim is to keep the fixing reflex at bay. Not jump in with advice, not jump in with saying this is what you need to do, but actually keeping it at bay. And trust me, that is so hard. Especially, you know, it's funny because I teach motivational interviewing and I go home and I go back to my kids and my husband knows about the fixing reflex. And he's like, Roxy, you really should, you know, do a little bit less of that fixing reflex. It's hard because we want to make it easy for people. And what I want to do is to soften sustain talk and increase change talk. Those are my aims. I may not be able to meet those aims, but I will try my best to do that. So yes.
So should we give you a moment then to,
yes,
to get settled?
Yes,
so while Roxy gets settled and Tim gets settled and ready for the demo, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about what we're going to see. So it's important to remember that this demo is completely unscripted. So Roxy doesn't know what Tim's going to say. Tim doesn't know what Roxy's going to say. And it's also important to remember it's just a snapshot of a relationship. In this instance, Tim is an existing client of Roxy's and he's in for his regular appointment. So it's been a couple of weeks since they've seen each other. And this is the bit that's going to be hard for all of us. What I'm going to ask you all to do, because we are going to explore what we've seen after the demonstration. So I do want you to focus on those objectives that Roxy's shared with us, but I don't want you to focus on the story. And that's really hard for us because we listen to the stories and we'll want to focus on Tim's story. But I want you all to focus on the practice that we see from Roxy. So what does she do? How does she make sure she stays curious? How does she make sure she resists that fixed reflex? Is she able to soften sustain talk and how does she do that? So maybe think of examples. And is she able to elicit that change talk? And think about that ambivalence. Do we see the ambivalence reducing outwardly from Tim? So we'll come back in a moment, but I just wanted to warn you there will be questions afterwards. And I would invite some of you to share your thoughts afterwards. So we'll be going around with some mics.
Okay. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Roxy.
It's been a while. I haven't seen you for a few weeks.
Yeah.
What's been happening?
Not a lot, really. More of the same. Just a sort of daily routine, going around the grind, looking after my kids, my two girls, and plodding on. But I don't know if you know, but I have had this invitation to interview.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah. I guess it is exciting. I suppose I should be excited.
So I'm seeing a little bit of hesitation and not really excitement coming through. So tell me a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I should be excited, shouldn't I? Because we've been I've been writing off for jobs, and so far I haven't had anything back. But now I have had something back, and it looks like someone does want to. I don't know if I would get the job, but someone does want to interview me. That's quite nice, isn't it? I suppose it should be flattering. But I don't know. I mean, we've put all of this effort into writing the letters and to try and get an interview for something, and now it's come along. I'm suddenly thinking, well, on the one hand, what's going to happen in the interview? Because I haven't had a job for 10 years. God knows when I had a last interview.
Yeah.
And then even, heaven forbid, if I got the job, then what?
Okay.
And that's, my mind's been all over the place.
Seems a bit scary and overwhelming. There is a lot to take in. Yeah, okay. So you mentioned that one of the things is, preparation for interview, etc., which will come later on. But I'm just wondering, can I explore a little bit? Like, it seems like there is a little bit of resistance, and kind of you are not looking forward to potentially getting a job. And I just want to explore, like, why is that? What do you think might be the benefits of going back to work?
Well, I guess there are benefits. I mean, we'd have to do the sums with benefits and the benefits
Yeah.
that I'm on
Yeah.
and all of that. But assuming there is a bit more money, that would make things a bit easier. I mean, it'd be nice to do more with the girls. Maybe even to go on a holiday. That'd be nice.
That's something exciting.
Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of that money would go on like childcare and everything, because I'm not going to be around for them, and part of my head is now thinking about would our lives actually work?
Right.
Because I do everything for them.
Yeah.
So that's a big shift for me,
Yes.
and it's a massive shift for them, and that worries me.
Yes. I mean, it's understandable, Since I've known you, you've always been a single dad, always there for them. Whenever they needed you, you were there. So it's a really big change, and it's understandable that it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But, you mentioned about some benefits. What do you think might be the benefits for your girls of going back to work?
Well, I suppose I can see some benefits for my elder,
Okay.
for Rosie, because she's just started at senior school. I think most of the mums and dads of the other pupils, I think they work. I'm certainly the only dad that I see on the school run, which is a bit sexist, isn't it? But the way it is. And I don't know how that feels for her. Whereas if dad's in work,
Yeah.
maybe that feels a bit better for her friends. And the clubs they go to at the moment, they both go to after school clubs and things, but at the moment it's just the free ones.
Yes.
So maybe there's an opportunity for her to do more
Yes.
after school clubs and take
Okay.
up hobbies, and more things to have to pay for, but it would give
Right.
her more opportunities. I
Great.
mean, maybe the money gets eaten up that
Yeah.
way, but I can see for her, some benefits.
I mean,
But-
yeah, go on, carry on, sorry.
But for my youngest, no, I don't see any benefits at all. And I worry that there are any benefits that there are elsewhere. They're for me. They're not for her, and that feels selfish and wrong.
Okay. But what makes you think that there are no benefits for her? So you identified benefits for your older daughter, she might have, a role model to look at her dad and know that he's at work and meet new people and in different clubs potentially if she gets to attend different clubs.
Yeah.
What about the
And I can
little
see
one?
benefits I see benefits for me too.
Yes.
Because you asked about benefits, and I can see. Well, I live in a world of kids.
Yes.
Apart from the mums and dads that I see on the school run, and it would be, it'd be nice to talk to grown-ups for once, if I can remember how to do it. And
I'm a grown-up.
okay, well, I suppose we talk.
You know
don't
how
we?
to talk to me, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And maybe have friends of my own, go out, see people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But those are benefits for me and for Daisy.
What about
No.
your little one?
Yeah. Well, not. Because, I mean, my elder, when my wife was around, she knew a slightly different time. But for my younger, she's only known the time when I've been there supporting her. And for Dad suddenly to have disappeared, I feel like I'm pulling the rug out from under our feet, and that feels unfair, as if I'm prioritising my needs or what I see of benefits for Rosie rather than Daisy. I don't.
Can I offer an observation? Because I wonder whether it's more about you, because you are worried about not being there for them, and you are worried about. What I'm trying to say is, it's your fear of what may happen coming through. But I just wonder whether, you might think of any reasons why your little one can actually benefit from you going back to work, and what might be the positives that would come out of that.
Well, I suppose, she has always had this routine where it's me that's always there. And if I'm in work, then that goes. And she has to start to rely on herself and find a confidence, I suppose, to be in other settings.
Maybe a bit more independence.
Well, yeah, because Rosie, the elder, when she went up to senior school, I know it was a huge thing for her because it was a totally new pattern. Everything changed. And Daisy's, she's never known change. She's always known me there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe you're right. Maybe there is something of it, me seeing my fears, and that for her there is a benefit of having new experiences, and for the idea that Dad isn't always there, and that she has the strength to deal with that.
So exposing her to potentially, change is good.
It could be good for her. It could be something certainly that she's not really had. I've never thought of that.
Okay. So there is a lot to take in. There is, it's a big change, and it's nice to be able to explore, what might be good reasons for you to go back to work, because I've known you for a while, and I know it's scary and it's a big change, especially when your kids are involved and your family's involved.
Well, you feel such responsibility.
Yeah. So where do you think we should go from here? What are the next steps?
Well, we've been talking about the job and the change and all of that as if I've got it, and I've not, have I?
Yes. This was just like a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah. So between me and the job is the interview. And like I said, I can't remember when I last will have gone for an interview, but it must be, beyond what I can remember. I can't remember what I'd have said at that last interview that I got. And I don't know what interviews are like now and what you're supposed to say, and I have no idea what I could possibly say at the next interview, because all I've been doing for 12 years as school runs.
So you would appreciate a little bit of brushing up on your interview skills and
to say
practicing
the least.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Well, we definitely can explore that. So I'm just looking at the time, and I'm aware that we are coming towards the end of our appointment. So I suppose there is a lot to take in, and a big change that potentially could happen. So we can start our conversation next time from the interview skills, if that still feels right for you.
That would be useful.
But while you go away and until I see you again, maybe you can reflect about on our conversation and thinking about the positives, because it's very easy to focus on the scary thing and the barriers and the things that are not going to work, but it's good to kind of shift and think about, okay, what might be actually good that would come out of that. So a lot to take in.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. See you soon.
Excellent. Thank you. So Roxy, we will let you relax for a moment. Well done. So excellent. Thank you, everyone. So audience, I'm going to come to you just for a second and just ask you to take a moment to reflect on what I asked you to do before that, and think about, did Roxy achieve her objectives? But before I ask you to maybe give us your feedback on that, we've got a really unique experience that we can have today, in that rather than having to read body language and guess whether things have landed the way we wanted them to, we can ask Tim to share his thoughts and feelings on what took place during that interaction. So before I ask you all for your feedback, I'm going to ask Tim for his. So Tim, from your perspective, how do you think and feel after that session?
a bit different, actually. Hello, everyone. I'll break my bubble and start talking to you. It changed a bit for me during the course of that interview. I've always been kind of in two minds about the idea of getting a job. And as you heard, one of the big blocks for me is thinking about the impacts of me going to work on my family. So I suppose there's two themes for me from this conversation. One is that right at the end, there's a big turning point, a revelation for me, in that through the questions that Roxy asked me and the thinking I did as a result, it occurred to me that there might actually be a benefit for my youngest daughter in me going back to work, whereas up till this point, I've only ever seen the downsides of that. So that's a massive mental shift for me, because seeing that differently allows me to think totally differently about what the prospect of going back to work might be like. So that's a huge light bulb moment for me, and it could have a big ripple effect in terms of the implications on where I go from here. I think what's interesting about that is Roxy asked me a question about that, and I thought and answered it, and that whole moment took maybe, 20, 30 seconds towards the end of our conversation. So it's quite a short moment that has that big impact. But the previous 8, 9, 10 minutes that we took to get there, I wouldn't have had that moment, I don't think, if I hadn't had that build-up. So whatever it was that Roxy was doing and the questions that she's asking and the thinking that I was doing up to that point allowed me to have that big revelation moment towards the end. So I think had Roxy asked me that trigger question at the start, my response might have been rather different, and I wouldn't have been in the right place to do that thinking to get that big outcome. So I suppose my reflection on the meeting and how I'll go where I'll go from this afterwards is those two things: that a massive moment at the end, but that everything that led up to it is kind of instrumental in getting me to that point. But what Roxy was doing to get me there, I'm not really sure, but maybe you do.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim, and thank you. So I'm going to come to the audience now. I know we've got some mics out there. I wondered if anyone would like to share with us, what did you see that we've heard from Tim, the impacts, what did you see Roxy do that allowed Tim to make that journey? Oh, here we go.
Thanks, Tim and Rox. It was amazing. You were taking a deep dive to understand Tim's situation, which you successfully did. There were key indicators there from Tim, wherein the sustainable talk was very blatant. Okay, one was around the benefits primarily. Okay, the other key indicator was the interview skills and the fear and lack of confidence due to the lapse of in work for 10 years. And the third one was more of an emotional with his kid. So I think all three, with that deep dive, you managed to get Tim to expand, accept and embrace that change is difficult, but without embracing change, one cannot move forward, because you're going to still be in that loop for the last 10 years, which you have been. And more importantly is obviously referencing back to running a mock interview would build Tim's confidence, would build Tim's expectations, and actually running that mock interview, introducing Tim to what we call the better of calculator, would then very clearly show Tim that actually you won't be out of pocket. You're going to earn more money through the benefit system.
Definitely.
Right.
So what you've picked up on there was Roxy used that, talking about benefits, not just for Tim, but for the girls as well,
right,
as a way of linking back into, and resisted, she resisted the fixed reflex, didn't
right,
she?
Right.
Can I just mention, which, it's very easily done, where somebody says, I don't know, I need to do calculations, I don't know whether I will be better off. We often kind of jump in and go, oh, don't worry, we can do, better off calculations to figure out whether you will be better off. And that sometimes can stop us exploring actually the rest of it, because we are now focusing on something that the client didn't ask for.
Yeah.
So before we do the better off calculations, there is, we can come back to that.
100%.
We can come back to that later. But 100%. Right now I have a client in front of me and I need to do something to help him explore change. and benefits and reasons for change, and hopefully getting himself
And
talk
I
to.
think
Yeah.
this is
100%.
key, isn't it? And one of the things that we'll come to Roxy as well at the end. We'll give some, if there's anyone else that'd like to point out any things that they saw, if we can get a mic here, we're going to come to you, because there's
Yeah.
always choices we make, isn't there,
Yeah,
in the moment?
yeah.
And I think that was a really key point. Instead of
thank you.
jumping on it, staying curious is what we saw,
Yeah.
and knowing that that's
Yeah.
something we can come back to. And actually, Tim was the one who brought us back to interview prep in the end. You didn't even need to do that,
Yeah.
because the conversation
Yes,
brought itself
yes,
back
yeah,
that
that's
way
true.
anyway.
That is true.
I'm sorry, we have someone over here.
Oh, hi. There.
Oh,
The
there you
ladies
go.
there.
Sorry, I lost
Yeah.
you. Hello.
Hi. I think there's three of us about to speak, so
excellent.
stand by your beds. I think in a nutshell, what we witnessed really was Roxy's active listening throughout that, and that gave you the space, because you gave those very clear signs that you were listening to all of his concerns and appreciating them, and that was signalled by your body language, your eye contact, and your facial expressions, and your tone of voice when you were asking questions. So they were quite gentle, and that made you feel comfortable. So that was something that I think sums up what the key skill is there, isn't it? Really.
And it's a challenge, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because
yeah.
with active listening, sometimes what we want to say is, oh, no, you'll be fine. It's absolutely fine. But actually, in that moment, that's not what Tim needed to hear. He needed to be heard, and then the conversation to continue from then. So again, we see the staying curious and exploring paired with the active listening was really powerful. Was someone else going to?
Yeah, over to Pam.
Yeah, I totally echo what Anne-Lou said. But also, I thought was good, you didn't expect or pressure him to make a decision there and then. You gave him, you were empowering him to go away and think about what you talked about. And so when he comes back again, any decisions or any reflection, it's been instigated by himself and not sort of feeling that you've controlled it, and therefore he's coming back and telling you what he thinks you think he should be saying. You've given him that space to reflect.
And I think that's a really powerful point again. And we'll come to you, because we've only got a couple of minutes left now, unfortunately. I'm sure we could all stay and talk for so much longer, because she is fantastic. We know, though, that motivation has to come from ourselves.
Yes.
We can inspire other people, but inspiration doesn't necessarily continue motivation. So that's a really key point that Roxy was able to do that. Now, I'm really sorry, we've only got about 2 minutes left. So
Okay. All right.
did you also, I know we said we were going to have three, that you're happy. I just wanted to give, I'm sorry if anyone else had comments we've not had time to do, but Roxy will be around during lunch.
I'm
so you
here.
can
I'm
wrap
here
up.
for the rest of the day. So if you want to talk motivational interviewing, if you want to talk to me,
Absolutely.
come and get me. Talk to me. I like talking as well.
What I wanted to, I'm looking for Amy, because I'm going to get in trouble if we run over.
Okay.
What I wanted to just finish
Yes.
off by doing is just giving you 60
Yes.
seconds to go back around that thing we just talked about, around the fact there's choices.
Yes.
And your reflection on how
Yes.
that intervention went.
Okay. So I started off by reflecting Tim's fear and the unknown and feeling overwhelmed. And I was mindful that that is leading to sustained talk, because I was basically emphasizing the fact that he's worried. But I made that choice because I wanted him to feel heard and understood and trust me that he can do that. Also, going back to your point that you made about decision and me asking, where do you want to go from here? There is a reason why I did that, because if I said to you, so tell me, right now, what are you going to do and how are you going to do it, etc., the client wasn't ready. We don't have time to explore this deeper, but when people are at that stage where they are not ready for change, when they are thinking about change, but they are not ready to change, if we push them into change too soon, they will resist, they will defend, and they will run away. And I didn't feel like he was ready for that, so I kind of wanted to move the ball to him to say what's next. I don't know what else I want to say, but yes, Yes, I think that's it. So there is one final thing. If any of you are interested in motivational interviewing, as I said, I've got this book on me. It's a great book. It's like a Bible of MI, and this is the newest edition. So I would highly recommend this. Also, I'm running a workshop online as well on motivational interviewing. If you are interested, if you want to find out more, come and talk to me. And if you want to find me, this is me. So you can link with me, you can email me, but I am here for the rest of the day. So if you want to explore a little bit more about my demonstration and the reasons why I did what I did, I'm here.
So his details are all in the brochure that you've all got and the
Yes.
QR codes that we'll be sharing at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Can we give a big thanks? A huge thank you to Roxy, Tim, and Helen for that. I mean, who doesn't love role play? You know, it's such an amazing thing. Right, a few instructions from me. So if our hosts can rank up the aircon, and as people are leaving for lunch, if you can make your way out both exits, please, that would be appreciated. And again, thank you to our colleagues at Cognisoft for sponsoring our lunch, keeping us well refreshed today. And can we be back for 1:30? Thank you very much.